Wigged out, wigged in, wigged out, wigged in, wigged out, wigged in, wigged out, wigged in.
So here we are in Barbie Signature Boutique. Today we'll be showcasing wigs for the Petite Barbies and opening the Naturalistas Grace doll. As you know, all my petites are usually dressed in rainbow high fashion. If you're a regular watcher of Wig Wednesday, I bet you're thinking, I've seen them in these wigs before. Well, I've repurchased the 6/20/26 You Create wigs and customized them to ensure that they would look good on my petites. To revamp, this one was a lion's mane kind of color originally, and I recolored it to a dark ginger. The brunette curly one I cut down and I pipe curled it so that it was a 3C pattern. The blonde one was too poofy and drowned the petites. The strawberry blonde with the flip curl, I'm not sure about that 50s curl. It's fun, but I want to modernize its look and make slight changes to the other two that pretty much did look good on the petites before also. For the curly brunette, this time, when I boil washed it, I didn't go through any trouble trying to bring the curl back. I allowed it to remain as a 3A wave pattern. I forgot how long that particular wig was, because the first time I cut it, I chopped it in half, okay? And I tried it on a regular Barbie, and it was still too long. So I took off half an inch. And then I tried it on Shakisha, and it felt like it was still too long, and I took off almost another inch. I don't want to get too fussy and end up messing things up. So I really do like the way it came out. It looks better on the petites and is no longer drowning them in hair. We'll soon see it on all of them. For the lion's mane, okay, I have been wanting a navy blue wig color. And so I finally decided, instead of trying to find one on eBay, I was just going to marker dye my own. Maybe one day I'll buy another one and make it a deep green. It's gorgeous. I love the way it came out. For the next one, Annie said I should try and straighten the big Texas blonde wig. So with the new big curly wig, I took her suggestion up and I straightened it out. I double boil washed it, and then I used a curling iron to straighten it out. As you can see, though it's lost some of its sheen and luster from harassing it, I feel like it's also toned down some of its brightness, the saturation of that weird orangey color, and it looks a little bit more like human hair. I also trimmed the back and the bang. I cut hair down to thin it out so it would look better on the petites. When the wig was straightened out, it was actually really jagged, so I had to cut it in the back and trim all the weird pieces that were weirdly longer. It all took some time for all of them. So, prepare to become your doll's hairstylist. The 1950s flip curl. I decided to modernize it into more of an 80s flip curl. I did try to do the spirals in the wig, but it was so short that it was actually quite difficult. I ended up just going over some of the stray pieces that did not get curled properly with a curling iron. For the most part, I am enjoying all the wigs on them. I'm also sort of weirded out by certain colors on Shakisha. For me, the hardest dolls to get wigs to look good on have been Shakisha and Ren. Whereas Linda and Dynasty are pretty consistent. So if you don't hear me comment on them too much, it's because to me they look fine. But I think with Shakisha wearing this pink shade, the rose gold is actually not that bad on her. I'm really enjoying this particular clothing style on her. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I really do believe that the changes I made to the wigs, specifically for the purpose of making the petites look good in them, has really worked out. Even my usual frustration with blonde wigs on darker skinned dolls is not affecting my opinion. I love the way that the hair on the straightened blonde is framing Shakisha's face. I think she looks cute. Linda's looking like a rock star with this wig. I actually don't mind this curl on Ren. It's probably the best curly wig or style of curl that I've seen on her. You know, one where I'm like, wow, she actually looks good with a curl. Usually I like her with the long, straight hair going down her back. For Dynasty, the hair is just a little bit too poofy still on her because her face is so much smaller. For Shakisha, I love this dark blue color on her. It's so pretty. She looks really classy. For the adapted 2026 Mattel Wigs, I'm going to do a side-by-side. I'll start over here. Before, the black bob was curled under and created times where sometimes the dolls look kind of Karen-ish, and other times, if they were dressed up more, then the wig would look classy. It just depended on what they were wearing. So the only thing I planned on doing was flipping the curl in the opposite direction. It turned out to be super easy to do. I was able to do it with just my fingers and flip it and fan it out in the back. Then on the sides, I flipped the curl outwards and back in order to change its aesthetic. For the brunette wig, I do believe the oil wash does drop the color a bit. I mean, you can see the color and shine is a little bit different around the front part in the hair. But it could also have been that the wigs were slightly different colored, as Barbie hair colors do vary slightly. In any case, what I did to style her hair was kind of a mixed media. If you remember the You Create Brooklyn doll, she has braids in the front, but then when you flip her and you look in the back, there was a lot of straight, wavy, unbraided hair. So I did that same technique on the brunette straight wig. I braided her hair into small, not micro braids, and I left some of it in the back unbraided. I really like how this braided hair turned out for Shakisha. I just swapped the brunettes and the black wigs. I'm really enjoying Ren in the flip curl, even though we've already seen her in it. I think what I'm really liking about this time around is that it's not upsetting as it was before, where every time I got to a petite, the wig looked mediocre. Even though the straight and brunette bobs were the exception, these ones look good on her without any adjustment. For the braids, Ren is very particular with her part. Her part has to be on the right side. I don't know why. It's something about her facial features. But the hair flows and frames her face best when it's parted on that side. Shakisha's just really rocking everything today. Yay! And Dynasty looks good in everything. It's weird because certain wigs seem to give each girl's like a different kind of vibe and attitude. That's what I'm feeling is going on with this black wig that's on Linda. And now, from Barbara Shoppe on eBay, I bought these next wigs because I felt they were the perfect length and they had beautiful, unique colors. I purchased them specifically for the petites. So I'll just keep the braids in rotation, to keep me on track. All these wigs were about $20 each. The first one I purchased is the one that Shakisha is wearing. As soon as I saw it, I was like, you know what? I bet that wig would look good on Shakisha. What I love about Barbara Shoppe wigs is it's the perfect amount of yarn that she uses. It's not overwhelming. It's not too thick. It lays so naturally. Her wig cap is not too big nor bulky. It fits perfectly on their heads. I still recommend a pin if you're going to be jogging the doll a lot. The colors that Barbara chooses are just amazing. My mind would never put these colors together. She drops them at her own pace, so you have to keep checking and then snatch it up, because her wigs do sell really fast. The second one I bought is this green and gold one. Oh, and the other thing is I really like the way she cuts the hair. It's just so perfectly even. The colors that she has on them are just one of a kind. And sometimes she puts out colors where I just feel like I technically shouldn't get them, because I have a wig that's a similar color, like this gorgeous blue one. Though I do not, this one has different bangs than the others. I just thought that this jewel turquoise blue was brilliant. I do have a similar color blue wig like this Integrity one. They're clearly cut different, and there's just something about the way her wigs sit that are just much nicer. I just can't say enough about the work that she does on her yarn wigs. And wow, Dynasty looks so good in this pale green. I don't know if it's just because it goes well with what she's wearing or what. I'm just really enjoying this color, especially with her makeup. I also like the blue wig on Ren and the opal one on Linda. With Linda, that's kind of not a surprise, because usually when the wigs come in from Barbara Shoppe, I always try them on Linda first. I'm not sure why, but she does look particularly good in all these wigs with her skin tone. I just love the cut on that green and gold wig, and it looks really nice on Shakisha. Believe it or not, this is the first time I've ever put her in this wig. I usually put Shakisha in the opal toned wig, mostly because you know how I'm always saying with certain skin tones, I get really fussy about certain colors. And you know, seriously, I shouldn't be promoting Barbara Shoppe so much, because I don't want the competition. And I really want another wig. I'm just waiting for the perfect color. Dulbdeoll is the next eBay seller I have bought custom wigs from. Though I also bought the 6 2026 You Create wigs off of her. And I believe they bought the dolls but then rooted them and then decided to just sell the wigs. It's the first time I've ever purchased wigs from them. They look decent in the pictures. They don't look very like a high density amount of hair, especially in comparison to Mattel wigs. It's more of a similar density to Barbara Shoppe. And that's why I think that these wigs are going to look great on the petites. As I mentioned in my Naturalistas video, I have collected almost all of them except for Grace, because I did not like the way that Naturalistas did their wigs. But facially, she's super cute, and I figured, you know what, I might be able to use some Mattel wigs on her, or I could potentially fix her wig. I've done a wig before, and my plan was always to do another wig, but it was kind of like, you know how you say you're going to do something and you never really make time for it? That's what happened. So my plan is to also try some of these wigs on her. And if I do redo her wigs, I'll just show it in another video. But let's just see what happens. So real quick, she comes with 2 wigs. One that is a long straight brown wig, and she comes with a pair of shades and a laptop. She also comes with a second braided wig. She comes with a ring light, which is really upsetting because my ring light just died. I usually have 2 ring lights, and my oldest one has passed away. Please say a prayer for my old ring light, as it finds itself in a very dark place. Here's her shoes, and she comes with a cell phone. She surprisingly has 7 points of articulation as she can bend her elbows. Still not enough articulation, but more than I thought. So, she's going to end up being rebodied at some point in her life. I do like these older body shapes for the Naturalistas. The closest match that I can find for them is Color Infusion, but I'm not sure if I'm going to manage to find one in her skin tone. I like the shape of their bodies, and Grace has a gorgeous face. So I almost freaked out when I opened the Dulbdeoll Wigs, because look at the little ball that the wig is sitting on. The wigs just look like they're too small for the Barbies, and I was really worried about the size. But when I saw the wig cap, I realized it was going to be fine. They also sent me some really cool gifts. These little containers with little barrettes. Okay, for the wigs, cross your fingers. So I'm going to show 4 of the 5 wigs right now. These wig caps are custom made for Barbie only, because Grace has this hair mold over her head for when she's not wearing the wig. It makes her head slightly bigger, so these wigs won't fit on her head. I was able to get a Mattel wig on her because it's made with a silicone cap, which has a little bit more stretch and give to it. It just barely allows me to squeeze it over her head. Most custom wigs have almost like a paper mache cap. In any case, I'm so happy so far with these new Dulbdeoll wigs. They're very light, the perfect amount of hair. Barbie tends to do, a lot high density hair. I mean, for obvious reasons. And also the integrity wigs were a ton of hair, which can feel a bit too dolly and not very realistic. Let me showcase Shakisha, for example, here. The brunette pixie is so light and pretty and very nicely cut. As an anime girl, of course, I was attracted to a pixie cut wig. I now have 4 black-haired wigs. The long one that I had Kinalin in the previous video, and the 2 bobs. And this one falls perfectly in between as a mid-length black wig. I'm not a huge fan of Grace's baby hair. It's too much, and it's going to prevent her from wearing anything outside of dark hair colors. Unless I go ahead and get acetone and wipe off the baby hair. But when she's not wearing the wig, it'll look fine with her hair mold. Next is this blonde curly wig. It reminds me a lot of the Mattel hat hair curls. The quality of this hair is better than the Mattel hair for the magic hair. It's also a nice curl that's perfect for the petites. Even on Ren, who hasn't been looking the best with most curly wigs, I guess it was the wigs and not her. The braided wig was the one I was actually kind of worried about from the picture. I just saw the hair was kind of strewn across her forehead, so I didn't notice the way it was on the side. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, it doesn't look that horrible, especially if I line it up right. It's a decent micro braid wig, and at least it isn't crazy big like that Integrity Blonde braided one. I think that the braids look so good on Shakisha. Maybe the problem was I didn't feel like it fit Dynasty's aesthetic, but it looks fantastic on Shakisha. The way it sits is just everything. I also feel like the pixie is looking great on Linda, and I always say that Ren looks good with her hair long, straight, going down her back. And I do enjoy the curly wig on Dynasty. So, there are a few times when I get a wig that I'm just super disappointed in, and I might discuss all of them, one day in another video. However, I just got a few of them, and how I wanted to see if maybe these wigs that I wasn't super happy with would fit better on Grace. I bought this wig off of Etsy, and on camera, this Rasta wig looks really good if you squint or if it's 3 feet away. I find it aesthetically pleasing in that sense, but the texture is like a very coarse yarn that's been braided, and the closer you get, and when you feel it, I mean, it has a kind of a decent look to it, but the closer my eyes get to it, the more I hate it. I don't know why this Etsy seller got such high ratings. Either it's whoever the buyer's first Barbie wigs and they have nothing to compare it to because, comparison is the thief of joy, or because you can order them for different doll heads, the reviewers bought theirs for different dolls and therefore had a good experience. On to Shakisha. I am liking the curly blonde wig on Shakisha. I am not liking this braided wig on Linda, though, and I think I figured out the problem. There's a slight gap around the head on the side where there's not that much hair, and when the dolls are fair, you can see into the gap. Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about. You see that gap? This gap here on the side? Like, maybe if it was sitting closer to her head, like if I pinned it, then maybe. Between Shakisha's head shape being different, I think a little larger, and her darker skin tone, that gap is not as noticeable. And due to the amount of glue that is on that portion, that side portion of the head, I can't get a pin through it. I could probably use putty or something if I wanted to keep it down, and I was feeling insistent on her wearing this wig. And, I don't know if that's ever really going to happen. So I think I will just mentally in my head say that this is Shakisha's wig and potentially Ren's, and we'll see when it gets to her. As for Ren, I do like the pixie on her. The black bang on Dynasty feels like the hair she was born with. As far as this ginormous second Etsy wig from the same seller, first of all, it wasn't the color that I thought it was going to be. I think they were out of the color, and so I settled on this one. But the big problem is the wig cap. Grace's issue is also that the baby hair that's poking out from her wig, it just doesn't match the wig color. And also look how tall her head is. It's insane in the membrane. That's crazy. And it's all because the wig cap is huge. I mean, look at the size of this wig cap in comparison to this other wig cap. I don't know if you can see the depth, and the size is bigger, making her have a cone head. If you reduce the large head syndrome and push the wig down, then the wig cap covers the doll's ears. You can see the inside bottom elastic of the wig cap, and the Barbie will also have no forehead. Ultimately, I'm probably going to have to cut the wig cap and lose some rows of hair. It's like they didn't actually try it on a Barbie doll. It's so disappointing. Here's a comparison with a Barbie wig cap. Okay, now back to Dulbdeoll's wigs. For Ren, I'm not seeing the gap with the braided wig. It fits her fine. Or I can't see the gap because of her darker skin tone. So with Grace, I've gone from having the problem with integrity wigs on Barbie, where Barbie's head is slightly too big for the integrity wigs. And now I'm having that problem with Barbie wigs on Naturalistas, where the Naturalistas head is just a little too big for the Barbie wigs. The wigs, Mattel's wigs just want to pop off of Grace's head because that mold is making her head slightly too big. And to make matters worse, the Naturalista's head is harder. Therefore, putting the pin through it to stabilize it is also more difficult. Despite that, I really do like this curly wig on her. Plus, being brunette, it goes well with her baby hairs. Either way, right now she's better off with and better looking using the Mattel Wigs rather than her own. I almost forgot about the 5th wig from Dulbdeoll. I'll just show it really quickly on each Petite. Here it is on Shakisha. There's a slight curl in the back and then a simple blonde streak going through it. It looks really nice on her. On Dynasty here, she also looks really good. Usually these brunette wigs manage to look great on all Barbie dolls of all skin tones. I don't know what it is about Ren, but she just looks better when the part is on the right side. But this particular wig style, the part is on the left. And with this particular style, I can't shift the part to the other side. She still looks good in the wig. Linda is last but not least. She also looks pretty good in the wig. But I have to admit, it's not my favorite wig on her. It's just, I've seen her in so many colors and styles now. And when you have so many, you start to develop a preference for certain styles on certain sculpts. So I decided to go ahead and fiddle with those troublesome wigs. The big gray blonde crimp looks best on Dee Dee because of her skin tone and height. I went ahead and cut out spaces for the ears and cut down the back of the cap around the neck base area. And now it doesn't make her head look so bulbous. I'm still considering boil washing and conditioning it to soften the texture, since it feels like wool. But I'm a little afraid to lose the crimps. Since I was on a roll, I decided to also fiddle with Grace's wigs. Her cap was a hard rubbery plastic, so I trimmed it down with a box cutter. I cut as close to the edge where the hair starts, though I feel like the cap could still be smaller. At least you don't see the ugly plastic in the front. It's still a little bulky to me in the front, but for now, this will save me from having to completely redo her wig. Maybe I'll continue to be happy with it. Otherwise, I'll end up cutting all the hair off and putting it on another wig cap. It's just really time consuming to do. But then, of course, the wig would be useful for more than just Grace. I could use it on other dolls. Okay, so that was the final wig of the day. 6 revamped You Create wigs, 3 from Barbara Shoppe, 5 from Dulbdeoll, 2 Naturalistas, and 2 from Etsy. We are done trying on all the wigs on the Petites, and so you see, sometimes you just gotta find the perfect wigs to go with your dolls so that they look perfect. Till next time, thanks for playing dolls with me.
If you like that video, you should consider watching one of these. Watch this one. Do it. Do it now. You're not doing anything about it. You know you're not. Oh, and like it and subscribe.